The first session for today, it's about creating transformational customer service. And we are honored to have here Larry Cole, who has worked a lot with us to make sure that you have a great presentation ahead of you. So let me give you a little bit of information on Larry. So he earned a PhD in psychology from the University of Oklahoma. And Larry was on the faculty of Arkansas Tech University and served as CEO of a comprehensive mental health center before founding his consulting company, Team MOCS, in 1989. Since then, Larry has been specializing in improving leadership, effectiveness, and teamwork while fostering an environment of behavior and improvement with the heavy equipment industry. So his specialties are leadership, management, culture, and customer service. And you're in a treat for everything that he's going to share with us today. Larry, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Lena. Lena, do I now need to share my screen?
Yes, so I'm going to stop mine, and then you can go ahead and share yours.
Share yours. Hey, guys, thank you very much for letting me be with you this morning. And I want to welcome you to Central Arkansas. I'm coming to you from Conway, Arkansas. And we've got a beautiful day going on here. All right, I'm with the Dealer Institute, which is, I'm a contract employee, contract trainer for the Dealer Institute, which is part of the North America Equipment Dealers Association. And I will start off with our vision and mission statement, the value proposition, because whenever I'm working inside of organizations, I'm always encouraging them to establish the vision and mission and their critical values. But our vision rather, is to become a trusted advisor and first choice for business strategy. That's where we want to go. We want to help our customers achieve operational excellence and long-time success. Everything that we do, and what you're going to learn more about in just a minute, is that our focus is on developing people, because developing people grows your business. So more on that to come. Here's kind of where we're going to see today overall. All right, I'm going to show you a comprehensive transformational service process or elements of that, but obviously we don't have time to get into all of that today. Our focus is going to be on the supervisor roles and responsibilities, and I'm going to just touch on that. I'm not going to give you everything that is about, because we've got roughly an hour, but I do have to talk about accountability, and I'll talk about accountability from both the supervisor's responsibility as well as an organizational responsibility. Research is showing that 70% of organizational efforts fail. And the number one reason that that happens is because we're not holding that process accountable. The other thing which we're going to hit on is critical important are what's called the moments of truth. Some of you, I'm sure, have read some of the customer service moments of truth because that concept has been around for a long time. I have one client who has changed that from moments of truth, and they like moments of connection, implies connecting with the customer. So then the very last thing we're going to talk about will be some management systems. And you'll see that I'm not a strong advocate that training per se produces a behavioral change, and you're going to learn more about that in just a little bit. All right, here's the job that I've got. Anytime I go inside of an organization, here's the job I've got. I want you to look on the left-hand side of that normal curve. There's going to be 10 or 15% of the people who aren't going to accept what we're talking about. They're going to resist it. There's just no way they're going to do it. You just hear all kinds of stories, and I'm not going to repeat them because you guys have heard them. Go over on the right-hand side. These are the eager beavers. Okay, they want to learn. They want to grow. And in the middle, we've got the critical mass. Now, this interesting thing about it is they can go to the left. They can also go to the right. And it's our responsibility as supervisors to help them to go to the right. And it's also when I'm working inside of organizations, working with people or an educational thing that we're talking about today, obviously I want to move you to the right. All right. Here's what we all have to understand. Organizations change when people change. So what that means is this. Yes, we would like to see our company have a straight line function. We know it doesn't happen. I'm not going to show you that, but I wanted to show you this. In order for organizations to get better, People have got to get better. And we're going to bring the organization with us. So the focus has to be on the people. And I'll just share it with you, just kind of a hot button with me. In every dealership that I've been in, 75 to 80% of their training always goes on the technical side, in spite of the fact that it is people that's going to determine the success of every organization. All right, as we go through, we're going to touch on those 5 things you see right there a little bit. We're going to start with some customer service benchmarks just to show you that model. Well, then we'll get into more specific roles and responsibilities. We'll talk about what you see 3, 4, and 5. You can read those too. So let's get started. Here's the psychology of customer service. Being a psychologist, you know I'm going to have to talk about that a little bit, but it is just a matter of, it's a ratio of what we receive versus what we expected. So let's look at it. If I put a numerical value to it, and I received what I would rate as a 5, but I expected a 10, the ratio is a 0.5, it's less than 1. So I'm going to be disappointed. And we want to manage those feelings. That's what we're doing, is managing feelings. Now, if I reverse that and I received a 10 and I expected a 5, then the ratio was 2, and you see I'm happy as a lark. All right, all of us have been in different types of varieties of industries where we've had experiences where we had positive and negative experiences. Let me just share something with you while I'm thinking about it. I was with a customer just recently, and they told me when we started, Larry, do not talk about examples outside of this industry. So I listened to that. Why? I asked. Why? And they couldn't really respond other than to say, we want it to be industry specific. Guys, the point is, look everywhere for customer service. Examples of excellent customer service and what we should not do in customer service. I've learned a lot about customer service in Lowe's, at a GMC dealership, you name it. It's just lots of different places you learn about customer service and what we need to do and what we do not want to do, but we can bring them back into the organization. It's like reading a book. There's not a lot of written material about customer service inside a dealership, so you read books outside of the industry and you bring that information inside. But the more you do that, we build trust. And that is the critical component, because I work with a lot of dealerships who want to be called trusted advisors. And if we can't create an environment of trust, baby, we're just out of luck. There's no doubt about it. Trust is referred to as the lubricant of working relationships. We just have to have it. So let's look at the cultural stuff for just a moment. I'm not going to go into this in any great detail, but when we're really looking at building a very comprehensive transformational customer service inside of an organization, I encourage this. I can't require it. I just encourage it. And these are some examples that we've put together to share with some of the people that we've worked with. And one of the values is quality, which basically saying we want long-term relationships by adding value to our customers. Okay, that's what we're doing with our customer service program. We want to care. We want to earn our customers' business one transaction at a time. We have to understand their needs and we have to find solutions. Next one, we exceed all of our customers' expectations. We want to be valued. We want to exceed everything. Then, of course, we want to have effective teamwork. The other thing which we need to understand, that external customer service is an extension of what's going on inside of the dealership. Let me give you an example. I'm now in this dealership, and they have what they refer to as a service writer, and he did all of his work outside of the dealership. The reason for that is they wanted to keep that employee because he was really valued, but he didn't get along with the service manager. They were at each other's throats all the time. Okay. Now let me ask you this question: do you think that service writer ever talked ugly about his manager out there with customers? You know the answer to that. It's an extension of the inside out. All right. So here's a comment that was made by one of the guys that I was working with that I thought really hit it on the spot. Every day we earn the right to retain existing customers and attract new customers, one customer interaction at a time. All right. And I know in this industry we use a lot of the Net Promoter Scores, and we've done that too. We also have generalized that to employee net. Supervisor and I'm a horse's butt, then I'm going to have a hard time teaching my people to be something other than a horse's butt, because I'm leading by example. There's so much I could tell you about all of that, but obviously we don't have time. The thing which we're not going to touch on at all today is that in order for a supervisor to be and maximize their effectiveness, they have got to get their stuff together. They have got to maximize their own potential. And it is disappointing to me, guys, that my profession knows how to do that, but yet we're not teaching people how to maximize their potential. We got to do that. Then when I'm maxing my potential, then I'm much better shape to help other people to do that. And the number one responsibility of supervisors ultimately is to develop talent. That's what we're doing here too. Here's Mother Nature's way. Look at that beautiful butterfly. It just automatically, by DNA, transforms into a beautiful butterfly. It's actually a cocoon, and it transforms into a beautiful butterfly. If you ever go to a butterfly garden and you see a cocoon, it'll start squeaking, moving, because the butterfly is pushing its wings against that cocoon. If you take and help that cocoon, butterfly out by stripping it, it will never learn to fly, because it's in the struggles, it's pushing fluid into its wings that's giving it strength. It'll sit there for 10 or 15 minutes and dry, then fly off. God gave us freedom of choice, though. Here's the way we do it. We get unsure, we get puzzled, we get lost, we get baffled, we get confused. You know the rest of the story. And then it gets worse. It is Henry Ford. He made the statement. There's some of us who think we can, and there's some of us who think we can't. Unfortunately, they are both right. So supervisors have to demonstrate an I can attitude whenever we're talking about creating a customer service environment. If they express any doubt whatsoever in our ability as an organization to do that, then we are sabotaging our effectiveness. We just have to do that. You don't have to read all that word, but the words, but just pay attention to the stair steps, because those stair steps symbolizes how we develop all of us, how we all develop our potential. It's not a straight line function. We're going to grow, we're going to plateau, we're going to grow, we're going to plateau. Now, I don't have a lot of time to go into the details of this, but I will say this. There are some of us, when we're in a plateau, we make the decision that good enough is good enough, and we stay there. And I tell people all the time, good enough is not good enough. You're going to be an effective leader, effective supervisor. You've got to maximize your potential. But there's a lot of people who will stop. I hate the word status quo. It is Ray Kroc, founder of McDonald's, who made the statement. We're either green and growing, or we are ripe and rotting. All right, think about that. And if we try to status quo, bingo, we're dead. And you know what happens to customer service if we're dead. So let's look at some of those responsibilities. Look at their train track. I ask people, what is the relationship of the railroad track and your company, your dealership? I'll get a variety of answers. Then I'll ask them, why does the railroad company maintain both of those rails? The obvious answer is to keep the train on track. I said, bingo, you're right. Our dealership has two tracks. One, it has a technical reason for being. Second, the people track. And I've already showed you that it's the people who determines the success of the technical, because without people, you don't have really a good technical program for obvious reasons, but let's go on. The same analogy fits with you and me, and we're supervisors. It fits with you and me. Every one of us is a technical professional. Every one of us has interpersonal skills. I'll ask people all the time, of those two, which one is going to determine your ultimate success? Ultimate success inside of an organization. We'll go through several configurations, but the short circuit, it's your interpersonal skills. If people don't like you, if you're a horse's butt, I'm telling you, it's going to circumvent. It's going to give you an example. I'm now in a Caterpillar dealership, and we're working with a 25-year employee. Sad part, he's been a hothead ever since he was a supervisor. He'd been a supervisor for about 20 years. He was a hothead. He had the reputation of just exploding. Okay. Did anybody do anything to help that out? No. You think that affects customer service? You bet. So they thought he was under too much stress, and they moved him to they took him out of the corporate office and put him into another office, another store. Didn't change his behaviors any. And I was over there one day, just before I had a meeting with him, and he just blew up. So when I talked with him, I said, Bill, that's exactly what everybody's been talking about. When you blow up like that, here's the impact it has on your people. Okay, what's it going to do to your working relationship with customers? Listen to what he said. Larry, I didn't get mad. I just acted. That's the way I've got to act in order to get something done around here. And that is, I'm just like my mother. So I looked at Bill and I asked this question. So what you're telling me then, if I would talk to your mother and get her to start acting differently, you are automatically going to start acting differently? Is that what you're telling me? Okay. I said, Bill, I just don't think it works that way. Unfortunately, after 25 years with the company, they had to fire him. It's a shame. All right, here's a supervisor's responsibility. Yes, we have to teach technicals or make sure that there's an opportunity for the technical side to be learned. We also have to teach people skills. I get this all the time. Larry, you can't teach people skills. And I said, that's baloney. Where do you think you and I learned our interpersonal skills? Where do you think we got them? Okay. When I was born out of mama, I left one environment and I came into another one, right? You did too. This one was warm. Now it's cold. This one was quiet. This is noisy. Then the doctor did what? Picked us up and slapped our little back. Okay. Under the pretense to get us to breathe, right? That's not why they do it psychologically. Psychologically, they do it to tell us that the honeymoon is over. This is a tough world out here. And unfortunately, I do believe as an adult, when I was that a lot of us have gotten stuck at the birthing process because there's a lot of really unhappy people. And that's a shame. That is a real shame, but we're not here to talk about that. All right. Here's another big one. This is a biggie. I got it listed as a teaching tool. Whenever I ask people inside of an organization, hey, does accountability have a positive connotation or a negative connotation? Most people will say negative because they associate it with a disciplinary process. I said, no, it's nothing more than giving people feedback to help them to learn the technical and the people skills in order to be successful. So that's the paradigm shift that we work with. There are 3 levels inside of an organization, okay, of accountability. One is corporate's got to ensure that the expectations are well defined. Now, here's I am biased towards getting employee input because we get employee input, we help get buy-in. Sometimes the corporate people will want to get together and create the defined expectations. And I always have to encourage them, let's get more people in here so we can get more ideas, because I'm a firm believer also that the collective intelligence is always smarter than an individual. And again, as I mentioned before, we want the best idea and we want buy-in. But we got to make sure that expectations are defined, such as the benchmarks that I showed you earlier. Look at supervisors. Without doubt, they have to walk the talk. You have to walk it because we are showing everything by example. All right. Then we have to teach. Then we have to hold people accountable by giving real-time feedback. Therein lies the struggle. Okay. Let me give you an example. I am now working with a company, and we're having a class, and a supervisor is, this was in a dealership. The supervisor was in the class, the owner was in the class also. And he saw some employees out there that were underperforming. He left the class, went to the employee, and immediately corrected that employee in terms of what the person needed to do. Real-time feedback. And critically important, but most supervisors struggle with that. And here's what the number one thing they tell me is the reason why. They are afraid of conflict. No. Feedback is nothing more than a teaching tool. We're helping people to be successful. That's all we are doing. Third level, of course, employees meeting or exceeding whatever expectations that we've got for our customer service elements. All right. I'm also an advocate of top-down change. All of us, I'm sure, have seen this organizational chart, and you see what's dropping down on the people below. And if you look down, if the people at top look down, they see a bunch of SHIT heads, and the people looking up are seeing a bunch of body parts where the sun doesn't shine, right? And there are times when I've been asked to come in and work with departments to bring change from the top up, from the bottom up. I won't do it. I just won't do it. Because of this, if you're going to bring change, it's got to start at the top, and because it produces bottom up commitment. Because here's the example. I'm in Arkansas, but if I'm as an organization, I don't know where all of you guys are, but from an organizational standpoint, you're all from the state of Missouri. Okay, seeing is believing. We're going to model what it is that we see. There's really some, I tell employees all the time, look at your supervisor, look at the behaviors that they're using that you want to model, and look at the behaviors that are ineffective so that you can make sure that you don't do it. Because there's a little concept in psychology called leadership shadow. The longer that we work with a supervisor, the more likely we are to acquire the characteristics of that supervisor unconsciously. We just have to be very, very careful. All right. Communication has to go from the bottom up to top down. That's part of the accountability process, just as it is with your other technical performance metrics. You've got to establish some metrics. And Satisfied D can tell you all about that. You got to have metrics, and you got to put them to work. Let me give you an example. I'm now inside of a John Deere dealership, and they were getting customer satisfaction data from John Deere. So I asked the owners, hey, how do you put this data to work? And they said, well, let me show you. So we went to the breakout room, and there was some data there. And the guy said, hey, that's how we do it. It's right there on the wall. I said, well, that's great. It's great that you're sharing it, because I've been in some organizations that the data was so bad that they wouldn't even share it with their employees. I thought, this is great. But look at the one that's got the lowest score. What do you do with that? Well, we put it on the wall so people can see it. Do you ever put that data to work? They don't, or they didn't at that time. All right, here's another very critical component in order for us to have a transformational customer service. We have to empower our employees. Let's talk about that. It's called the inverted pyramid. Note that I've got customers on the top of that pyramid, followed by first line employees, and then the executive team and other people are there to support your first, I'll stop stuttering in just a moment, your first line employees. All right, that's what has to happen. Now, in addition to that, that sometimes psychologically is hard for people to accept. Just telling you that, but if they're going to be really, really good. Now, watch. This is the critical part. What are they empowered to do? Okay. So what has to happen from the customer service world is we have to decide what our first line employees can do in order to wow the customer and give them the authority to make independent decisions in real time. You know it just as well as I. If I'm dealing with a customer service issue and I've got to go find my supervisor in order to resolve this issue, you know the story that is being told. I'm going to go out of this industry for just a moment. Ritz-Carlton, before they were purchased by Marriott, had a $2,000 limit for every employee to satisfy a customer complaint as many times during the day as they needed to use that $2,000. Phenomenal, isn't it? Okay. Now, Marriott bought it. Marriott decided we'll still use that $2,000, but here's what we're going to do. Instead of just spontaneously offering it to our customers, we asked the customers this question: what do we need to do to make it right? What do we need to do to make it right? And they found just that simple question helped continue to improve their customer service, but it reduced the cost of the customer service program. What do we need to do in order to make it right? So I'm going to show you the steps of empowerment, and I'm going to really highlight the supervisor's responsibility if they've got the authority to do what I'm about to tell you. It's kind of a cultural thing. You have to define the expected results of what you want. Obviously, we want very satisfied customers, and we want to wow our customers in every opportunity that we possibly can get. Do they have the necessary resources to do that, including whatever money it takes in order to solve that problem? Now, I'm not talking about something that's going to steal the bank, but there are things that we can do in order to satisfy the customer. Then we empower to give independent authority so that those decisions can be made at the time. I'm going to come back and tell you a sad story about that in just a minute. Establish timelines if necessary, monitor progress, and adjust as the data suggests. I'm sharing with you the entire 6 steps of empowerment, but most of it on the customer service world in real time is going to be in steps 1, 2, and 3. So let's go to an automobile dealership. I had a problem with that push button phone, not the phone, but the radio wouldn't stop working. So I bought it in Little Rock, which is about 45 miles from here. And I didn't want to go to Little Rock to get it repaired. So I decided I would do it locally at a GMC dealership here locally. All right. And so I took it in. They said, yeah, we have to order a new radio. I said, fine. And they installed it. I got in the car, I'm home, and my console has a thing where you just push in and push out and it goes in and out. Well, I pushed it in, but it didn't come out. Okay, I thought, well, that's crazy. Maybe it's just stuck. So I pulled it out. I forced it out, which was a mistake on my part, because now I got a beautiful crease right down that wood, whatever that is. That looks like wood. It's probably plastic or something. I don't know. So I go back to the dealership. I explained to the problem. I'm now dealing with the service manager. Yeah, Larry, I see the problem. And I tell you what, this is our fault. And if you'll just pay for the labor, I'll make sure that we pay for the part. Deal. So they said, bring it back. I did that. And it's working fine. Only problem then was the service manager did not tell the service guy that I was working with, the counter guy that I was working with, that the first $600 was being paid by them. But that time, guys, I know what I'm about to tell you is not right. I agree with it. But I was so frustrated by that time, I said, fine, I'm going to pay for it, but don't expect me to walk through that door. Okay? And I will not go back to that dealership. All right, more on that to come. Here's a very important concept for all of us. We got to manage our moments of truth. Some people call them managing moments of conception. Of connection. Here's the steps that we've got to go through. We have to identify the critical interactions, and I'm just going to show you a couple of them this morning, because I know we're going to be running short of time. 2, we got to script out the necessary words and actions that we want to take place. All right. We have to teach our employees items out of number 2, and we have to practice it so that they can do it. Then we have to hold people accountable to implement it, real-time feedback again. You have to understand, this is not a one and done. This is a continuous improvement journey. This is just the way we do business in our culture. All right. We have to understand something else, that every interaction with the customer tells a story. I don't know how many of you have read that story, that book by Carl Sewell, but it's a great customer service book. He had, a dealership out in Dallas. All right, I'm going to show you an ugly picture. So just get ready for it. Here it comes. There. Now, I walked in this dealership. He wanted to talk to us about some customer service. And I was in where the store where the corporate office was located. And I saw two men come out of the restroom here right off of the show area. And so I figured that's where I need to go to the restroom. So I walk in there, I look down at that bowl, and it looked very similar to what you're seeing on the slide. Okay. I had a lady that was working with me from the Dealer Institute. Her name is Jamie. And I said, Jamie, would you go into the ladies' restroom and tell me what you see in the ladies' restroom? She came out and described that bowl. She said, I didn't even want to sit down on the commode. Fortunately, I didn't have to sit down. Okay. Tells a story, doesn't it? Now, what do? If you are a supervisor and you see something that needs to happen, what is your responsibility? Do it. Immediately, providing an excellent customer service example to your employees. Do it. I could tell you some other stories where I'm walking with owners, and I start picking up stuff, and they said, Larry, don't do that. We've got maintenance people who will do that. And just crazy. Supervisors have to lead by example. Now, this next rule that I'm about to show you, I borrowed from medical environments, because there are medical facilities in northwest part of the United States that use this rule, and they have data supporting that it has improved their perception of quality of care. Just this rule. Watch. When we're within 10 feet of an employee, the rule is to make eye contact. Make eye contact. Every employee, whenever they see anybody walking around the medical center, make eye contact. We're now implementing this in several dealerships. Now watch. When you're within 5 feet, you got a friendly greeting. Hi, I'm Larry. Hey, thanks for visiting us today. What may I do to assist you, or whatever it is that you want to say, but we make. Now, let me give you another example. This is going to be a sad story. So whenever I'm working with a dealership, I like to show up at the dealership and not let anybody know that I'm going to be there. Kind of mystery shopper, right? So I'm now in this dealership who told me they have great customer service. I walk around the showroom and I'm standing here looking at some inventory in one of their racks. An employee walked around. He was 4 feet from me. Did that employee even look at me? No. I had to interrupt him just to ask him, hey, I'm here to see so-and-so and so-and-so. Where is their office? And he said, it's upstairs. Super. Good customer service, bad customer service. So I'm now meeting with their management staff the next morning, and I gave them that example. They first didn't believe me, okay? Then I had to remind them. I'm telling you this too. Anytime you and I get feedback, we have 3 options. We can deny it, just like what you guys did. You guys can accept it and do nothing about it. But elite people are going to listen to the feedback and they are going to use it. And they want to know what's wrong before we want to know what's right. So I asked the management team this question. Do you want to be an elite customer service provider? Yes or no? What'd they all say? Oh, yeah, Larry, we want to be that one. Then I said this. I don't care what kind of feedback you get about your customer service. You got to believe it's true until you prove yourself innocent. Just remember that principle. I am guilty until I prove myself innocent. Okay? So a supervisor, when they see it that it's not happening, what is their responsibility? A teaching moment. That employee just gave them an opportunity for a teaching moment about the 10 feet, 5 feet rule. But supervisors better follow that rule if, in fact, you guys are going to start using that. And I'm telling you, that's a take home. That easy rule is a take home. Right. Here's a tougher choice for you. I would bet you if I was in your dealership and I started talking to you about your values, you tell me that integrity is one of your values. What I would bet. So this is a real life scenario came out of a dealership. The service area was completely scheduled for a week. One of their largest customers needs service now. So what do? Well, here's what I get most of the time when I ask that question. Well, we got this customer who doesn't do quite as much with us, so we push them out a little bit and we bring that boy in, that big guy in. Okay. Not if you're demonstrating integrity, because integrity is you're going to do what is right because it's the right thing to do. You got to explain it to the big guy. That's a tough one. I understand that. Money, customer service. I understand that. All right. When we practice, here's what happens when you and I practice. There's more on this, but I'm going to show you the outcome. We're in a comfort zone. We have to step out of our comfort zone in order for us to get better. And as we do, we increase our comfort zone. You practice it again, and you increase the size of our comfort zone. That's what you and I have to do. We have to become really uncomfortable as leaders and as supervisors to become comfortable with being uncomfortable, because we got to constantly be challenging ourselves and constantly challenging other people so that we can improve performance. That's the deal. Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway was a title of a book that I read 30 years ago by Susan Jefferson. I love that title of that book, but we've got to do that if we're going to be really, really good at leading our people. All right. I told you I'm not an advocate that training produces a behavior change, okay? And because of 3 options that I just described. But before we show you this rubber band, here's what I'm going to ask you to do. I'm going to ask you to just take your hands and fold your hands. All right. I'm one that puts my right thumb on top. Now refold it and put the other one on top. I'm putting my left one on, obviously, right? It's uncomfortable, which is why I'm going to go back to whatever is comfortable. Now, here's my point. See this rubber band? I know that you and I intellectually are smarter than this rubber band. Would you agree with that? I know you all would agree with that. So watch the rubber band. I'm going to stretch this rubber band out. And that's what happens when you and I are asking people to change. We're stretching them a little bit. We don't want to stretch them too far because the rubber band would break. But here's what happens. When we take the system away, what happens? We go back to its original shape, which is why we have to have systems in place in order to provide excellent customer service. I don't have the time to go into that in any more detail other than to tell you that we've got to have systems in place in order to bring about a behavior change. Here are some changes, some systems. At the beginning of every formal meeting, note I said formal, not every time you meet as two people. These are formal meetings. They are scheduled meetings. Discuss the importance of some aspect of your customer service process and cite some success stories. Success breeds success at the beginning of every formal meeting, because we want to show our people that this is critically important to us. This is where we are going. All right. Then also look at putting it on the corporate agenda. People have to see that it's on the corporate agenda, because that symbolizes, communicates that it's important. And deal with customer service metrics, deal with some of the data that you get from Satisfied D, review progress from individual stores. You send communication back to the stores in terms of how well, what could be done differently or better. And then if there's any accountability issues that need to be identified, okay? You want your people to identify anything that is causing frustrations inside of a working relationship. Here's another one that is easy as it is. It's a challenge sometimes to get it started. Everybody walks around. And guys, when you're walking around the store, just notice some of the moments of truth. And what are you telling people about your moments of truth? Are you proud of what it is that you're seeing? Now, I'll ask people, okay, how many different ways are there for you to get to your office or the place where you work from in your dealership? And they'll always say 5 or 6 or whatever number. Well, when you come into the dealership, which one do you use? Well, I always come through this door. That's good. So why don't you just come through some other doors sometime and talk to your employees? Hey, what are you going to do today to show excellent customer service? What did you do yesterday to wow the customer? Anytime a supervisor asks questions like that, they send a message of how important it is. My friends, this is easy, but it's just a very simple management system. Very simple. I'm a strong believer that every department ought to keep track of their customer service faux pas. And then they need to look at them and study them and decide, why did it occur? What did we learn from it? And what do we do to make sure it doesn't happen again, or at least we minimize it, okay? Minimize it. But it's not going to happen unless we talk about it, okay? Sometimes I'll go into a service department or a parts department and I'll ask them this question. What is the most common customer service faux pas you have that happens here? What do I get? They look at me like, what in the hell is a customer service faux pas? Okay, that's not the answer that I want. You've got to put them to work, because this is an opportunity to wow your customers when something like that happens. All right, this is the last one I'm going to share with you. I borrowed this from Ritz-Carlton. And at Ritz-Carlton, at the beginning of every shift, the managers get together and they talk about customer service. What happened yesterday that we can learn to be better from today. Discuss any ugly event or content that a peer department may not know that's happening. Discuss it. Guys, we're here to help the store to be successful. We're here to help the dealership to be successful. We should be open to be able to talk about things. Managers should actually be able to hold each other accountable for doing what it is that they need to do. That's the kind of rapport we need to have inside of an organization. Just think about it. If we could be just a little bit better today than we were yesterday, just how good we will be. All right. But we need to focus on that in order to make it happen. And that's the supervisor's responsibility too. Okay, guys, I told you that was going to be the last one. We're getting right at 12 o'clock. I don't know if anybody put any questions out there or not, Alina. I've got, guys, if you want to contact me and ask me something, it's down. You can see my contact information down there. Alina, did you get anybody with a question?
Yes, we have a few questions. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Larry, for this amazing presentation. It was very engaging, very specific tips and tools and things on how people can improve their customer service.
Nobody talked with me, Alina.
Well, everybody was paying attention. Everybody was paying attention, and we already have here Mary. Lizzie Pardon, thank you for sharing your comment about how your great presentation. So we have some questions coming in. I want to invite everybody to also put your questions there. I'm going to get you started with the first one. So this one talks about transforming customer service. So it's about why would a dealership not want to implement a transformational customer service culture? A little bit controversial.
That is an excellent question, because here's what'll happen. You sit down with them and you ask, hey, do you guys want to get better? And what are they going to say, Alina? What are they going to say? Oh, sure. Want to get better. Okay. Do you have a good customer service program? You walk into a dealership and they're going to say, yeah, we've got an excellent customer service program. I asked this question. Okay. What was the last customer service improvement that you made in your customer service program? And what do I get? Blank stare. Okay. Unfortunately, success is a terrible, terrible disease. They think they're pretty good. They get some pretty good ratings from their OEMs, and they think that is good enough. All right. Even though they will agree that good enough is never good enough, they don't transfer that into the organization or to them personally. Okay, so the bottom line of it is they just haven't seen the value yet for them. All right, so that's in a short, that's what happens. They just don't see the value. So what you got to do is take them through it and exercise and to help them to see the value. Okay. Perfect.
We have 2 more minutes, so maybe we can squeeze in one last question. And it's about, what do you recommend, what type of traits or talents supervisors should develop to better empower their teams?
Okay, ask me that question one more time.
In your, what type of traits or talents supervisors should have, or like what personal requirements supervisors should have to develop their team?
Good question. Yeah, there are several, actually, more than what I'll be able to address in this time. But one of the very first ones is self-confidence, being able to come across self-confidently to be able to help their people to develop their talent. Of course, self-confidence in itself is a personal development for all of us. Okay. All of us can learn more self-confidence, but we have to do that by continuing to step out of the comfort zone. Here's a biggie. Self-confident people are generally very humble. And humility is a hard thing to define. And the best definition that I found was offered in a book several years ago called Egometrics. And they define humility as, we are confident, we are proud of what it is that we've achieved, and yet we know that we've got a long way to go. I've got a statement right here that just came to me, that was sent to me, that fits what you're asking, Alina. In order to become an inspirational leader, when you have the humility to build a team with people more talented than you are, we all want people who are better than we are. That takes a lot of self-confidence. You got to enjoy teaching people to be successful. There are some people in my profession who will tell you that the number one predictor of a supervisor's success in moving up to the next level is their enjoyment in developing talent. One of the best persons that I've had the opportunity to work with actually came out of Arkansas Blue Cross Blue Shield. She just absolutely loved it. Okay, you've got to also be able to provide the real-time feedback so people can be held accountable, so you can teach them the necessary interpersonal skills. Here's the other deal. You told me, I mentioned earlier on, this is the last one I'll mention, earlier on about the importance of a vision and a mission of an organization, of a dealership. I go to a lot of dealerships and I'll ask them about their vision and mission. If they've got one, it's on the wall somewhere. Guys, that is a great motivational variable, because every decision that we make in a dealership should be guided by our vision and our mission. What are we doing in order to achieve our vision and the mission? Which reminds me of just one other event I'd like to share with you. I hear all the time that there is natural conflict between parts, service, and sales. And I'll look at people and I say, that is stupid. The only reason there's conflict between parts, sales, and service is because of ego. It shouldn't be. Difference of opinion are great, but all of us should be confident enough to work in such a way that we are making a decision that is best for the dealership and for our store. If we are talking in terms of conflict being normal, just think about that for a moment. If conflict is normal, then that's insinuating that it can never go away. That is crazy. Differences of opinion, yes. Conflict, no. Did I answer that question?
Yes, that and more. So thank you so much for sharing all your knowledge, for giving specific examples based on your experience. We truly appreciate your time and efforts, and giving you a virtual applaud, and we look forward to having you again.
I want to come to your happy hour after a while. I've never seen a virtual happy hour.